Hey, it's Josh. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, you might want to go to my Substack, where I have included YouTube links to the characters that I'm talking about. What do I have in common with Nellie Oleson of Little House on the Prairie? Spoiled alert, we are both soft villains. Explaining how a person can acknowledge, accept, and manage being horrible and human at the same time. Laura. Nellie, I don't know how to tell you this. Nellie, use your mouth. I grew up watching the television show Little House on the Prairie. The characters of Harriet Oleson and her daughter Nellie Oleson, the de facto heels of the town of Walnut Grove, were my favorites. The show was not comedic. It was a full of tragedy, 1-hour drama, but when it was funny, the comic relief tended to come from these two characters, either directly or because of comeuppance played upon them. Nellie was so goddamn nasty and so quick and confident with her insults that they could only have come from an apple not having fallen far. Her mother, Mrs. Oleson, was a queen of manipulation, guilt-tripping, and opportunism. If I were less adherent to my quest for putting the square peg of my personality into the round hole of society, i.e., if I were a child who acted on my disgust with how I was growing up amid my introduction to the influence of these characters, I might now be writing from a correctional facility instead of a caffeine facility. I describe a character such as Nellie, whether they be fictional adjacent, as Little House characters are based upon the books of the real-life person Laura Ingalls Wilder, or actual, like myself, as a soft villain. In my worldview, soft villains have anger impulses that come to the surface as incisive biting comments, condescending facial expressions, and a seeming aloof insensitivity to the feelings of others. A hallmark of the soft villain is that these behaviors only have negative consequences for the soft villain, and never for the ones they villainize. I love Harriet and Nellie because I always saw their humanity and knew they felt pain. Therefore, I knew their pain motivated their actions. Actions which always resulted in the soft villain looking foolish and learning a lesson about themselves. Lessons that would only stick until the cycle began to repeat. This is the blight and plight of the soft villain. They lash out, are shunned, but ultimately endure to reflect on these consequences. For a time, anyway. Harriet and Nellie got really rude when they got into their really rude moods. I am like this too, because my mind jumps there all on its own when it's my time. I have learned not to say the quiet part out loud, but the quiet part can never be quiet to me. I hear the quip forming and being edited and arriving finalized and ready for delivery instantly through my face hole. It has taken years of hard work to vet and hire a synapse management team to apply neurological no-nos on whatever Nellie-adjacent nastiness lurks. I am sorry, not sorry, that I am like this. This skill, if you will, I hope you won't, is purely nature. When I feel personally attacked, my impulse is to go straight for the attacker's head, to mess with them psychologically. I am not proud of this, but I ask you to bear with me by confessing it. This is a dangerous thing to do. It is like poking a bear, speaking of bear. Look, I don't want to poke a bear, and then I don't want to be a bear. We are not in control of when we might encounter a bear, and some may say we are even less in control of when we become a bear. While I am here, part of my endeavor on Earth is to become an expert at controlling my bear necessities, like an obvious need to make bear puns, for instance. But more importantly, the need to indulge my impulse to attack. But man, biting comments are a weakness I have had to reclaim for my mind only. As a youth, the lack of knowledge and guidance imparted to me by my actual parents, over the parents I saw on TV, kept me from recognizing how to get along in the world as I went from smart-ass kid to teenager blowing the lethal lava of volcanic anger down to the town. This would later require excruciating self-examination to properly remedy. Damage begets damage, and blah, blah, blah. You don't want to hear how it happened when you're killing some time reading this while waiting for a Starbucks type drink, or listening while you're getting out of your New Balance running shoes into whatever you wear on your feet the rest of the day. Here is the back of the book blurb anyway. Were you a gay Jewish kid into music and art who grew up in suburban New York with all of the cultural advantages this life provides? Then, did your selfish father decide to upend your entire family and move you to rural Indiana to take a job promotion that he didn't need? Were you tortured, bullied, and abused by the neighborhood while your parents shrugged because they weren't too good at it? These are not the makings of the worst experiences a child can have, but they are mine, and the kinds of experiences that synthesized a soft villain. I will entertain with the deep details of this period of pubescent pain some other time. Back to the fun. I made changes in myself for the good of the people, and one of those people is me. Today, once I make eye contact with you, the level of softness in my soft villainy depends on whether or not I want to be gentle to Josh on that day, or whether or not I want to be a fucking jerk. That is what is happening in all of these given moments and interactions. I am lashing out at me if I am lashing out at you. I am loving me if I am loving you. Why was it so vital for me to watch Little House on the Prairie specifically? I mean, there were other bratty options on the screen. For instance, I aspired to the sharp wit and sass of the sister character Dee on the iconic sitcom What's Happening? Dee also embodied the soft villain, but a sitcom is less nuanced than a one-hour drama. Danielle Spencer, the actor who played Dee, delights with her bites. Of course, she did not write the lines, but she delivered them, and her delivery is literally everything. I didn't know until now that Spencer and Allison Arngrim, who played Nellie, tied for the Character Most in Need of a Timeout prize at the 2006 TV Land Awards, and appeared on stage together to accept. Soft villains unite! So again, why Little House? As a young gay, the 1 hour running time wasn't the only reason I was glued. I started forming crushes early in life, and often. This continues to this day, and it's something I enjoy about myself. A pure reflection of the boy I was. He is me, I am him, and him had raging hormones. I didn't have crushes on Nellie or Harriet Oleson because, just kidding. But I distinctly remember crushing on Laura's adopted brother Albert Ingalls, played by Matthew Laberteau, and also on Matthew's real-life brother Patrick Laberteau, who was also a cast member on the show playing Andy Garvey, the son of patriarch Charles Ingalls' friend, Jonathan Garvey. My infatuation spanned from 1978, when I was 6 years old, until 1982, when the show went off the air. I even had a more mild crush on Willie Oleson, Nellie's younger brother, who I would consider a soft villain himself, except he was not intelligent like Nellie. Intelligence is an essential criteria in the makeup of a soft villain. I crush quickly to this day because I can see every beautiful person's longing for acceptance and understanding. This makes them not only attractive to me, but also lovable. I am just not as skilled as I would like to be at gaining trust before I allow my sarcastic nature into the spotlight. Remember, humanity is the moral underpinning of soft villains, and is what makes a soft villain exciting, authentic, and safe, despite their villainy. I don't think there were many boys like me who were as into Little House as I was. Still, I can't possibly be the only adult version of a traumatized boy who would have given anything to live in Walnut Grove, walk 2 miles to school, and learn about life under the watchful and loving eyes of Ma and Pa Ingalls. I also know I can't be the only one who identifies with Nellie. The show was and is still too popular for that. I listen to a podcast called The Walnut Grove Cast, which confirms this by its very existence, and another co-hosted by Arngrim that celebrates 50 years of the program. I don't expect to hear about one that explores the enduring influence of Nellie's brattiness on adult men who saw themselves as boyfriend material for Albert, Andy, or less enthusiastically Willie when they were young. But maybe when I publish this. This is TV, of course. In real life, again, it is critical to remember that a villain without humanity, without morality, and without the ability to learn lessons is not a soft villain. That person is just a villain and should not be paid any mind and should be avoided. This person has internalized their grievance and hardened to the idea that the only relief is to hurt others permanently. Hard villain, hard pass. I want to make a distinction here for my own good. I am not fictional or fictionalized. I don't want you to hate me. Unlike Nellie in her worst moments, I am not cruel or mean. Have I ever been cruel or mean? Yes. It took those experiences to know what it feels like to be something I never want to be again. I learn lessons. I am actually a very likable guy. The person who has the potential to dislike me the most is me. But those moments are fleeting, as I have become adept at negotiating and winning debates with my negative self. I tell others often that laughter is my number one priority in life. Even when I am at my most pessimistic and close to depression, I laugh easily. It is not the laughter of someone feeling cheered up. It is the laughter of someone who knows, as a fundamental tenet of existence, that our perception of reality is nothing more than perception. I chuckled just now, writing that, as I thought, that sounds so self-important. Then, when I said that to myself, I laughed again. Pointing out that you laughed at yourself for saying something sounds so self-important is also so self-important. And so on, and so on, and so on. I went through a very dark period during the time when I was living in New York City in the first decade of the 2000s. I would go to the restaurant Shopson's every morning because the owner, Ken Shopson, cared for me. He was known for either really caring for you or really not caring for you. Even though Ken is sadly gone and the restaurant is run by his kids, there remains a famous "you're in or you're out" aura for any patron who might arrive unaware of the establishment's reputation. Ken's acceptance of me came from his hypersensitive ability to see into and quickly read whoever was in front of him. I have handfuls of stories to tell about my time seeing Ken and how he made an impact on my life, but this one is brief and relevant to what I am discussing here. One morning, I brought a client of mine to the restaurant, and during breakfast, Ken looked over and said to my guest, "Oh, you know Josh?" And before my guest could respond, Ken added, "When you first meet Josh, he's kind of an asshole, but when you get to know him, he's a really nice guy." I retell this often because Ken's words were a gift. He summed me up so succinctly and accurately. I never took this proclamation as an attack on my character. I took it as an explanation, affirmation, and encouragement of my character by someone I respected and who was respected and loved by many. Ken knew I was a soft villain and loved me for it. He was someone who stuck around and found out. You may very well think, that guy is a jerk, about what Ken said and did that day, but do so at your own emotional peril because Ken is also correct. When you get to know me, I am a really nice guy, and I want to be nice to you. At least a little nicer than Nellie.